Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today I got a few important things to think about before you invest in comic books. Because we're spending a lot of money on comics here. So, you don't want to be that guy that has like $500 in their account and you're looking to buy like a $400 CGC 9.8. Like I wouldn't recommend doing that, and that's pretty irresponsible, I guess you could say. But what I would recommend doing, and kind of the one thing to do before you invest in comics, I think, is to save and invest. Yeah, you want to have a good savings plan. I think it's really beneficial for so many ways, I think. But you want to take advantage of compound interest. Yeah, compound interest, it's in the math for sure. And like Einstein said, it's like the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. And, basically interest on interest on interest on interest on interest year after year consistently ends up snowballing. Yeah, really after 20 years too, definitely ends up snowballing. You want to take advantage of that. So you definitely don't want to be thinking about buying like a CGC 9.8 for $1,000 if you have no savings, basically. So, saving and investing, first part there, saving. Really, I think every paycheck you want to save at least 10% of what you make. At least too. I'd really recommend like 20 to 30% to kind of accelerate the results, I would say. But that's a good way to start saving 10% of every check at least right into your savings account or your brokerage account, even better. Like, it's all set up ready to buy investments, and that sort of consistent flow of buying investments wins over time in my experience. So the second part there is saving and investing, because to get compound interest working, you got to make a return. And the best way to invest in the way I've done it is through the stock market. Yep. And I've really never regretted like any investment I've made in stocks, to be honest. So I think it's a beneficial thing. So how can you invest in stocks? The easiest way, it's going to be index funds. Basically, you can buy index funds either at your bank or open your own brokerage account and buy them sort of directly. That's the cheapest way to do it. That's probably the way I would recommend, the lowest management fees. But you want to buy index funds. In my opinion, the United States is kind of the best at business. They're just like, their culture is all about making money. Their businesses have the highest return on equity. So personally, I would put pretty much all your savings into United States index funds. So that like the S&P 500 index fund, I think is a good one. Like a Dividend Aristocrats index fund, those are usually good too. All the companies in those type, a Dividend Aristocrat usually has paid a dividend consistently for like 20 years or something like that, or 30 years, something like that. So a little more safety there. Maybe if you have a bigger risk tolerance, you can do a small cap index fund or like a NASDAQ index fund. Yeah, the technology has done really well. The sector has done really well in the last year with coronavirus and everything, but it's done well in the last 5 to 10 years as well. So, some ideas there, but if we look big picture, maybe some rules to follow. I don't think you'd ever want more than 10% of your investment portfolio to be in comic books. So, a scenario here, possibly for some people, and just an example, maybe you got a savings plan, you've been doing really well for the last year or two. Now you got $10,000 saved in index funds, and you got a little cash as like an emergency fund in your account. And that'll depend on, if you have kids, maybe if you're just living at home or something, your emergency fund doesn't have to be that big if you're a little younger, right? So, but you got $10,000 away in real investments. Now you can think about, okay, yeah, maybe take $1,000 and, think about buying some, a Hulk 181 or whatever it is, right? Or a CGC 9.8. So next point I want to make here is like comic books, they're not the best investment. I struggle to even somewhat call them an investment. I mean, from kind of weird from someone that has a comic book investing channel, but comic books, they're kind of, you can relate them to gold. Gold is shiny, it looks nice, but it doesn't like make a product. It doesn't spin off cash. It doesn't pay a dividend. It doesn't have a service that people really, really want and are willing to pay up, and it's growing every year and year. Like gold's not like that. The gold's kind of shiny, looks nice. Comic books are like that too, looks really nice, really wanted, kind of rare, similar to gold, but it's not spinning off cash. It's not making profits. It's not growing every year or anything like that. And it's possible for them to grow in value, but, the comic books to me are like an asset class to invest in. but maybe not an actual investment, because for me, an actual investment is something that gives you cash, that is making profits, that makes a product or service that's exciting, that people want to pay for, and then they're growing every year because of that. They're earning high returns on equity because of that, and their profits are growing every year. Every day they're making money, so there's no like questioning it really, like it's almost a sure thing. And I think in those situations, that's where you can get giant wealth created. And it's kind of an obvious point, but pretty much everyone on like the Forbes 400 or something like that are business owners. There's not like a comic book billionaire on the Forbes 400. Like there might be, maybe someone got super rich in business and bought all the Amazing Fantasy 15s or something. Like there's probably someone out there for sure doing that. But, nobody became a billionaire buying and selling comics or investing in comics. Like they have a place in an investment portfolio. For me, they work so well as like a gold substitute. Like I don't own any gold. I don't like the idea of gold. It doesn't pay dividend. It doesn't make a cool service. It doesn't really have any industrial applications either, like silver does. So silver is even better than gold in that way. But for me, comic books work well as like a gold that I can actually enjoy and have a nostalgic connection to and love the art, because I'm a art creative type of guy. Like I just love art so much. So I get so much more from these than a gold, and I think a lot of other people do, and the values have done pretty well in some of the CGC 9.8 comic books. But we'll conclude up here, but I actually, we can't get into too many details in a video like this, but I got a couple books to recommend though that certainly have more details. So for the stock market, my favorite book ever is One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. Just getting into the mind here of one of the best money managers who ever lived, pretty much. He managed the Magellan Fund from, it was the late 70s there into the early 90s. And he got about like 23% a year during that time, annualized return, which is amazing, almost unheard of. And even before that, he was an analyst, and his analyst history was like amazing. Like he just, he calls them the 10 baggers and the 5 baggers when, your stocks go up 5 times what you paid or 10 times of what you paid for them, making 10 times your money. So this book's kind of my financial Bible, to be honest. It's the one, and it's a really like easy read too. That's why I love to kind of recommend it to someone who's maybe interested in stocks but doesn't know too much yet. Yeah, One Up on Wall Street. One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. And yeah, he's a great guy too, and just super easy to read. Yeah, that's my favorite stock Wall Street book. So many great insights. I just can't even get into it. I'll probably talk for hours about it. Next one though, that's kind of the stock market one, right? You get a lot of the basics here of in Benjamin Franklin. Just, how to be good with money, just like how to think about money. And Benjamin Franklin, like he's on the $100 bill, I think. Ben Franks, like all the rappers talk about it. I'm Canadian, so I think he's on the $100 bill. For a reason, he's on the $100 bill. He, he was all into thrift. Like this is like in 17 something, I forget when it was, but right into thrift. And he talks about it's virtuous to save money, and he knew about compound interest like way back when, like it was a fool's game to just spend all your money and have not a lot of money and not have your money making interest. That basic idea that have been around for years, and Benjamin Franklin's talking about it. And it's worth mentioning that these are like, some of these ideas are just so old and ancient, and you tend to see young people too, I'll kind of specify, maybe they don't have the best attitude, and they're just not open to opportunities or open to investing in the stock market because they're a little bit bitter or resentful, or they have they're a bit nihilistic about some politics or something. Like they just think like humans are a cancer on the planet or something like that. Like I think that's a pretty terrible attitude to have personally, and it really closes you off to some of the opportunities here, because when you have those attitudes, it's like, I'm not going to save money, like fuck that, or I'm not going to invest in a corporation because they're evil corporations, and not the right attitude to have, in my opinion. All right, last book though, the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder letters. I got in a book format. They're all online. Yeah, BerkshireHathaway.com, I think it is. This one's 1965 to 2013. I like books, clearly, like comics. Wanted to have the book, but Warren Buffett is the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, so you just get a hit by hit, year by year build up of his fortune and what he did and the moves he made. Definitely more technical than the One Up on Wall Street. You get like, it's kind of a lot of accounting and details, and then you get some pearls of wisdom, obviously, though, from Buffett in there as well, but mixed in with a lot of accounting and like insurance annual reports and stuff, because it's basically just the annual reports of Berkshire Hathaway each year from 1965 to 2013. But Warren Buffett, you just can't not learn enough from the guy the more you read, and certainly if you're into the stock market, anything Warren Buffett's kind of worth reading for sure. Okay, so some book recommendations. I'll put the books in the description below with the author's name and stuff, but we'll conclude up here. Yeah, what do I put for conclusion here? Like comic books are great, but they're not a substitute for like real investments that we talked about, that earn high returns on capital, that are growing. Like that's the reason why Jeff Bezos is the richest guy, basically, because he started Amazon. Amazon's one of the best growing businesses. He had his whole fortune and life into Amazon. Now he's the richest person in the world because it's the biggest company in the world. And there's just so much more upside because, like a lot of the reason why I'll make a video like this, like you occasionally get into semi-debates and arguments with people who are like, they have no stocks and know nothing, and they're anti sort of stocks and businesses, basically, and even like anti-paper money too, which is kind of certainly a niche that's out there in the investing world for sure. But I think no, definitely, and from those people you'll hear arguments saying that comic books are basically better than stocks, and they're better than some stocks, absolutely. Some stocks are terrible, some businesses are crap, but other stocks earn really high returns on equity. They grow every year, and they're huge stores of value, and the upside is massive. It's more than almost you can imagine, especially when you mix in compound interest, which is a really ancient concept. So you get a really above average business that's growing and doing so well. Mix in compound interest, which is that long-term interest every year. So you have to be, continually invested. So it's kind of a buy and hold strategy, pretty much. Buy as it goes up is sort of the way to do it. But the upside of that is just so much more than, putting all your money into, the best thing to do would be to put all your money into Amazing Fantasy 15s probably, but there's just not that ultimate upside to again, a growing business that's earning high returns on equity, that is buying back stock and, makes an awesome product that tons of people want. It's just making money every day. Whereas comic books, they just sit there. No money being made, no dividends being, if anything, it costs money to maintain them. So it's and have insurance on them. So it's like another cost essentially. So, not as good as, in my opinion anyway, as, just a thriving, growing business. And I'm speaking from, someone who's invested in businesses and done pretty well, certainly well enough to not worry about money and start my own sort of small comic book channel and not have to work and, just do the things that I love every day and have that freedom. Yeah, and I think that's one of the main reasons of saving and investing is having freedom eventually. It's once you get the money, there's really no reason to do a job that you would hate. So then you have the freedom to do everything you'd ever wanted. And that's, certainly a better position to be in, I think, than living paycheck to paycheck, having no savings, and then, spending some extra money on CGC 9.8s every now and then, but still essentially being broke. And debt's a whole nother thing too, you certainly, in my recommendation is to save money and buy cars rather than take out debt to buy cars. So there's so many ways we can go with this, but, okay, yeah, the basic conclusion, though, is comics are great, but they're not a substitute for a real savings plan and real investments. And I think of all your investments, you shouldn't have comic books be more than 10% of all your investments. So that means 90% is going to be in great growing businesses or index funds. Okay, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll find something else to talk about and blabber on for a bit. But thanks so much for watching, team. And, just wanted to mention this because I'm sure there's some people out there for sure, not having a lot of money, really loving 9.8s and kind of stretching themselves a little bit too much. And, I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to take some time, you want to be strategic, you want to get a savings plan, you want to take advantage of compound interest and get all the benefits. And then when you're in that spot to start buying some comic book investments, then you can do that. All right, we'll leave it at that, though. Thanks again for watching. Message me on Instagram if you had any questions, but thanks so much. I'll see you on the next one.